We had a little Wi-Fi hesitation there.
Yes.
We're good. And battery.
Welcome to Friday with Friends.
Whoop, whoop, whoop.
I'm Mandy.
Hi guys, it's Abby.
And we are with the friend team here at Keller Williams Realty. And we do our Friday with Friends. It's our opportunity to answer questions, to chat about what's going on in the market, so that if you have any real estate needs, that we would be honored to be your realtor of choice whenever those come about.
Perfect.
Hi, Stacy. So,
hi guys.
When you're hopping on, make sure that you're commenting, adding anything, any thoughts, and make sure you're share, tagging any friends that you think are interested in the topic today.
I know, it's an exciting topic and it's really happening a ton out there. What we're talking about is, can we say it?
Topic.
Okay, perfect. So our topic for today is when you're living with your parents and how to navigate that, because this time of year we find so many people are graduating, whether it's high school or college, ready to make that next step, or maybe a lease is ending. A lot of times we see the summer months, that's when leases are ending and people are saying, do I renew them? Do I buy? Or do I live with my parents for a little bit until I figure that out? So we're seeing this is happening a lot.
Yes, and so what they're calling it, the internet world, it's calling the Boomerang Generation. And what that means is you live with your parents, growing up as children, and then you move away, whether it be to college or into your other living, and then you end up returning back to the house.
I didn't know what that meant until right now. Thank you.
So the Boomerang Generation, and sometimes it's getting like this negative connotation, but what we found is within these especially these last couple months, it's just really put this on as a forefront on our minds right now to be chatting that when we have clients that are living with their parents and they do it the right way, they are setting themselves up for so much success. And like people are like, oh, you live with your parents, and it's kind of like, well, if you do it these specific ways, then you can really be like, I'm going to be buying a house soon, or I'm going to be paying off my debt, or paying off any credit cards that a lot of times overwhelm other people because they feel almost that pressure to be on their own.
Yeah, exactly. And I don't remember what I was going to say. You got going.
Well,
I got excited.
I just think that
that's what I was going to say, is when you are moving to that next step from moving in or, moving out of parents' house and into buying a house, which is what we have the opportunity to help a lot of people with, especially this time of year. Yeah. They, they're not tied to a lease date. Yes. Or they don't have to stay in an apartment or sell another house, whatever it might be. They have that flexibility to move out slowly and, take their time. So we've had a lot of clients be really satisfied with their boomerang choice.
With the boomerang. But, you have to think this isn't just about young adults. What we're also going to talk about today is parents. If you have this house and you're like living this one way and then all of a sudden they start moving back, this is for everyone, whether it's, the parents or the young adults, that this is kind of what we've seen. And, we're not parents and we did live with our parents for a little while, both respectively, but we're coming from this third party point of view where it's like we've seen what works, we've seen when it's been a little bit challenging, and hopefully we can get some insight into it.
Right. And one thing that we also wanted to say is the term that we use as parents could be a lot of things. I lived with Mandy. We probably should have followed some of these rules. No, we had the best time ever. Her husband didn't necessarily enjoy it, but we had fun.
Details.
So it could be siblings. It could be aunts, uncles, grandparents, or parents. So just a really cool opportunity to chat about, different options that they might not all work for you, but if some of them are able to help, we'd love that.
So we've got 5. Just 5, 3 and 2. We have 5 keys that we have identified that will lead you to success if you are in a situation where you have a boomerang, a young adult living with a family member, parent, all of those things.
All right, let's do it.
Number one.
So the first thing that we're going to talk about is really understanding what the other side is thinking. So starting with the perspective of, okay, I'm the young adult living with my parents, and realizing that they've been living a different life without you. Since you've been gone, maybe it was
empty
college.
Nesting, yeah.
Yeah, they've been empty nesting. They've had the remote control. They've had quiet nights. They've had all of these different things that have changed since you left and now are coming back. So really being aware of that and understanding, okay, I'm really grateful that I have this family member that's allowing me to stay in their home and really showing them that you're grateful. That's huge.
And not assumptive, like going to move back in with my parents, but to make it a decision. Hey, parents, are you good with this? Like,
right.
you know, and make it where it's not just like, oh, well, it's my house. No, it's your parents' house.
Yeah, exactly. And you're both adults now. So that's definitely a conversation to have to make sure that you understand how they're feeling and you're also showing gratitude and everything like that. Coming from the children's point of view.
Yep, and then coming from the parents' point of view, the understanding too is, you know, kind of like we mentioned before, is that moving back in with your parents, sometimes socially, it's not as like accepted. So one of the ahas that I had was, so my husband is Canadian and Italian, and they have that very European mindset where it's normal for them to live at home until they're married. And I'm like, well, what do you guys mean? Like, you're still living at home? And I realized that there's this American perspective that is like, no, if you're living at home, that means you're not financially where you need to be. You are lacking independence. And that's what I think there's this societal pressure that for parents to realize young adults might be feeling that, and to kind of get that out of your mindset, to have the confidence to say, I'm moving back home. Here's my intention. Here's my reasoning. And it doesn't matter what other people are saying if you're really preparing yourself. And so I think that for parents to understand the young adults, that, you know, to really empower them and to treat them like adults too. They're not the 10-year-old baby, that baby boy, well, not baby, you know what I mean. 10-year-old child you have to like oversee, but to say they're adults and to really come into any sort of conversation with that in mind.
Good point. All right, so that's number one.
Number one is the understanding, really understanding
seeing
each other.
the other side and being grateful. Either direction, really.
Yeah.
All right, so tell me about number two.
Okay, so number two, you guys might think's kind of crazy, but stay with me. Have a contract.
What?
So when I was doing some stuff for this, I saw there was a really cool contract online that if you guys want it, just message us and we'll send it to you. It's not like perfect, but a contract, the whole point of a contract is to make sure that both parties have clear expectations, right?
Yeah.
So sometimes you're not thinking like, oh, I need to have a contract with my child, but what we've found is that people that are very clear on their expectations, that's where there's success. Yeah. So there's a couple topics of outlining in the contracts that we wanted to hit on. So
So yeah, the first and the biggest one, which we'll talk about later on, is, you know, obviously finances, and we'll jump into that. But not only is it the, you know, the black and white, am I paying, am I not paying, but it's also the pets, curfews, having people over. You know, if you did go from living in a dorm room or, you know, living in an apartment by yourself, that's a big change. You know, I can't just have people over every time that I want to. So there's lots of different things that can be outlined in the contract.
Some of the other things in there was like checking on the thermostat. So I always joke, like, Eddie's mom is always like, who's touching the air conditioning? And it's like, oh, it's like, you need to know what the temperature is. And it's little things that you can, you know, that can make a difference. So we outlined pets, also groceries. Like, you're going to increase that grocery bill. Are the parents going to be, you know, how are you picking who's picking up the salami?
Yeah. Neither of us like salami. That was such a weird example.
I think I have Nadia in my head.
Yeah, there you go.
The other thing is utilities. You know, so that kind of goes in with the thermostat, but like, how long are your showers? And, you know, are you guys required to have meals together? Like, Mom, do you expect for me to be home for dinner? You know, is a serious question. And if they have these expectations and you're like, I don't want to, this is a time to have that up front.
And that's where the contract it is a contract, but it's really just understanding expectations and knowing, okay, if my parents or my aunt, uncle, whoever I'm staying with thinks that I'm doing this, but I want to do this, that's where the conflict happens. And so even if it's just having a clear conversation over, okay, this is what I'm going to do, this is what you want me to do, how can we meet in the middle, that's when it's the best experience.
Exactly.
Communication solves everything.
Seriously. Hashtag therapy.
That's why we talk all the time.
And so then I think the final piece to having an important contract is consequences.
Ooh.
So if Mom...
Time out?
Yeah, probably not time out. But it could be that, listen, if you're not mowing the lawn, you're going to have to pay for someone to mow the lawn. If you're not doing, you know, you're going to have more chores. Things like that you're really you're being very clear about if either side isn't upholding their, their side of the bargain, to have that up front. And that way it's not that emotional conversation that you've already agreed on it.
Because it is family. And that makes things tough too. So you want to make sure, again, you have those clear understandings and can keep moving forward.
Awesome. Okay, so the first one, understanding each other. 2 is creating a contract, or really just making sure you have ultra clear expectations on everything.
Perfect. All right. So
Number 3.
Number 3 is timeline and goals. And this is something where, you know, a lot of people that we find that move back in with their parents, again, we're calling them the boomerang. Boomerang?
Yeah.
Boomerang? Okay.
Boomerang Generation.
Boomerang Generation. Perfect. When they're moving back in is, you know, okay, well, why are you moving back in? And let's understand your timeline and your goals. For a lot of people, they're moving back in because they don't want to sign another, is this what you're seeing out there? They don't want to lock into another full year lease, but they also aren't ready to make that jump to purchase a house. And that's what we're experiencing a ton this time of year with leases ending. So for a lot of people, it's saying, okay, mom and dad, I'm, you know, moving back in. I want to save up
Hi, Marissa.
this amount of money, and then I'm going to be able to close on my house and move out. So having really those clear expectations and timeline and goals, so your parents can help, or your, you know, whoever you're staying with, your family can help.
And you know, one disclaimer too that I will say is we also have a lot of clients too that or I guess they wouldn't be clients, but a lot of even friends that they move in with their parents for the intention to help and stay there long term. So the conversations that we're having is the intention to purchase a house, and that's what we've seen. But that sometimes it works perfectly. Parents with young adults that they can both, you know, carry half, you know, share the burden, and it makes sense and it's long term. And so if it is that, make sure your parents are on board with it, and make sure you're on board with it too. But this is more of timeline and goals if you really see yourself saying, listen, I want to set myself up for success. And some of the timelines and what we were talking about is clear expectations is sometimes it's you're going to move out once you have X amount saved.
Yep. Maybe a down payment for the house. I know exactly, you know, I've already worked with your agent to say this is how much money you'll need to put down in your new house, and then that's your goal.
And another one, we just had clients, you know who you are, who just closed yesterday, and 5 years, they spent 5 years paying off their student debt. So they said, I'm not buying a house until I've paid off my debt. And they ended up they just, you know, lived below their means. They didn't live with their family, but they were very serious about paying that debt off. And when you have these student loans that are astronomical, credit card loans, maybe that's a goal that you set. Once my debt is paid off, that's when I'm going to maybe go to a rental or before buying a house. But really the question is, what are my goals until I want to get out? And it could be a timeline. It could be a year. Some of the other things, until I have a certain job, until I find a place where rent is X, until I find a friend that I can rent with so my rent's lower.
Another one that we see a lot of first-time home buyers using are different grant programs.
Yes.
A really popular one's the first-time home buyer grant, which I think we've talked about in another
message us
video.
if you want message or more
it's
info on
amazing.
It's so good.
But that grant program can take up to 10 months, maybe even a little bit longer. So a lot of times that's a really good planning. Okay, I'm going to start the program. I'm going to buy a house in 10 months. Mom and dad, this is my plan. And we really talked about using your parents as almost like an accountability partner and a coach to say, hey, mom and dad, or parents, aunts, uncles, whoever you're living with, this is my goal, 10 months. You know, hold me accountable, help me achieve this.
Yes. And like parents are good at this stuff, you know? I mean,
they've done it.
they've been through this before. So if you're a really great saver, it could be that your parents are checking in with you every single month. You know, you have different ways that we'll talk more about finances, but you know, use them, rely on them to say, these are my goals, here's how I'm going to be reaching them.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Should we get to the next one?
Okay, so first was having a clear understanding. Second one was having contract. The third one is outlining your timeline and goals. And if you have all of those things done, then the financial piece is going to be a lot easier, because you're really going to know, okay, we're even, we're fair, or hey, I might need to contribute a little bit more.
Yeah. And that's tough. You know, it's a tough conversation to have with your parents who, again, you lived there for 18 years, whatever it might be, to come back and then have them say, okay, you have to pay rent. So it's definitely not perfect for everybody. But there's lots of different options where if it's not, here's a check every month, there's different options where you can contribute to, again, make it fair.
Yeah, for sure. And one of the things that we're not like saying you should do this, but what we've seen, no questions is asked, is when you are having the intention to move out, that you should either charge some sort of a rent, and we'll get more into it, or 2, do a monthly check-in with your family every single time. So it could be, okay, Abby, what does your savings account look like at the end of January? Okay, what does your savings account, where it's not like you're paying rent, but that they're saying, listen, we're going to be doing this check-in.
Right, and that's cool. Again, if you're using your, okay, when I get to a certain savings amount, that's when I'm going to move out. And instead of me saying, all right, mom and dad, here's my rent check, it goes into a specific savings account, and then every month the parent is saying, all right, let me do a quick check-in. Okay, it went in there. Where again, you're saving and reaching those goals versus just giving the money to the parent or not saving anything.
Yes.
So it can really help with those goals. Another cool thought is if paying rent doesn't make sense, is actually changing the utilities.
Yes.
We can talk about that one.
So basically, if you want to be paying rent, or if you want to be supporting your kids or your young adults that are coming back home, that a lot of things that you don't think of, that you're trying to like get them prepared for the real world, is they don't think about the lights turning on and off. They don't think about the 20-minute showers. But for you to say, okay, utilities are going in your name, that's a really great way for them to get that experience. Like, oh God, I better turn this light off. Oh gosh, I better, I better not take that long shower. So it's not just you need to pay rent and, here's $1,000. It's, here is a way that I can contribute that is less than if I were to be living on my own, so that I can set myself up financially.
And it probably helps with credit and accountability and things like that too for the child living with you, to really understand, okay, I have to pay this bill every month and get into that routine prior to being, pushed out to the real world by yourself.
Yeah, I'm like, can someone just pay my taxes?
Yeah,
that's really all I'm looking for.
I'm good.
So the idea of rent is figuring out what that is amount, and maybe it's not where you are paying them anything. It could be that maybe part of your rent is to take things off of their plate. So we normally have a landscaper. Okay, do the landscaping. We normally, mom and dad normally have someone to come clean the house. Okay, I'm going to clean the house. All of those things where you figure out, okay, what am I adding to their plate, but then also what can I remove from their plate when you're talking about different options, so that you're not, shelling out money for rent. And that savings program, that First Home Club savings program for first-time home buyers, that's the whole point behind New York State, is you have to save up, you have to prove to New York State that you can save up money every single month for 10 months in a row, and that's how they'll give you that grant. So that's the whole premise behind it, is that you are really preparing them to come up with money and to every single month, this is what you're going to be looking like once you hit the real world.
Not just one time. And, one of my good friends who is, between a lease and purchasing a house, what she does is she goes and does all the grocery shopping and like makes meals and things like that. And that's something that, again, it's taking off the parents versus maybe paying a rent, which just doesn't make sense for their family. But it's, taking time, energy, and, that's what works best for them. So as long as, again, you have something that shows accountability and also that consistency every month, is a good way to maybe offset an option of paying rent.
Yeah. Oh, I love that idea. So,
I know. Could someone make me dinner?
I'm like, I do Instacart.
Yeah, exactly.
No, but, okay. And I think the key to this, and then so the fifth key is monthly meetings and accountability and checking in. So really making sure that it's, that you're saying, hey, my game plan, like last month, is it still the same? And are we doing good? Or, hey, we have, we've been uncovering a couple concerns that we have, mom and dad have been a little concerned that you're staying up too late, or that you're doing this, and you can have those conversations. But the worst thing is when you're getting frustrated, and then you end up having to, you work so hard to save all this money, and then you end up having to get into a lease where you're starting to, pay the landlord that money, all because you didn't have those conversations and expectations up front.
And clear communication.
And every single family is different. We have some people who stay with their siblings, some people who stay with their friends. But what we're talking about is just finding ways that maybe you're not out on your own spending a astronomical amount on rent, that because, and you're feeling that pressure because you're supposed to be independent, but that to like have confidence that you could be setting yourself up for so much success financially, and that you're ultra prepared going into the home buying process, going into whatever next phase of your life is, because you've been able to have that support from your amazing family.
Just get a sister.
Or just,
No, that's perfect. And again, just ultra clear communication. That's what's really best, to say, hey, this is bothering me. Okay, how are we gonna fix it?
Yes. And to have those monthly meetings and to stick to them. So, okay, so that's our summary.
People. Hi, Kayla. Hi, Brian.
Hi, Kayla. Hi, Brian. Hi, Megan. Hi, Emily. Okay.
Everybody. Okay, so let's do the 5 keys countdown.
The 5 keys countdown. First and foremost is gratitude and understanding.
Number 2 is having a contract. Might not need to be a written contract. We do have one though, actually a copy. Reach out to us if you want us to send it to you. But really just clear expectations of, okay, this is what the rules are gonna be.
Yes. Number 3 is timelines and goals. And you're very clear about if you intend on staying for a long period of time or if you're really saying, okay, I've got this, I have this goal that I want to set. And once I hit that goal, that's when I'm going to be, moving out.
Yeah. Number 4 is have a clear financial plan. Is my child going to pay rent, or are they going to do something else to make up for that? There's lots of different options. Find out what works best for your family, but really so you have a plan so everybody's on the same page.
And lastly is monthly meetings. So checking in with where you're at every single month to make sure that you're headed in the right direction, because contracts and all, expectations, new things will be popping up. And this way you're going to stay on the same game plan and make sure that you're both on the same wavelength.
That's it.
All right, so thank you so much for tuning in with Friday with Friends.
Friday with that high note.
Oh, I heard it. Friday with Friends is our opportunity to talk about what's going on in the marketplace, answer any questions, to be your realtor of choice when the time comes. So if you know of anyone that's looking to buy, sell, or invest in real estate, we would absolutely love to help. Our website is www.friendonyourSide.com, and of course you can message us here on our Facebook page at any point.
Perfect.
All right, have a great weekend,
Bye, guys.